This is Salam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio, broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Assalamu alaikum, you are tuning into Her Chronicles, a radio show dedicated to young women's mental health and various aspects of womanhood. I'm joined in the studio with Kelly, and for the next hour we will be discussing how womanhood reflects in the professional sector and dilemmas between being true to your womanhood yet building a professional brand for yourself. Hi Kelly, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing really good.
Yes.
Pleased to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So Kelly, correct me if you're wrong, but you are the ARU Course Marketing Ambassador, the ARU Law Clinic Student Advisor, and the Law Society President, and you're also Peterborough's Youth Counsellor.
Yep.
I mean, such remarkable achievements. Where does your inspiration and motivation come from?
Right, so a lot of my motivation just comes from me wanting to be out there. Yeah. And I think you'll find that when you're somebody that wants to be out there, the opportunities kind of open themselves up. So I knew that I'm the type of person where it's like, if there's an opportunity, I'll put myself in at the forefront and just go for it. And I think that's what a lot of it comes down to.
Yeah.
All that involvement and such.
Yeah, you have a great way of looking at it, you know, getting all the opportunities, especially being a university student. I mean, how do you balance it all?
That's a good question. People always ask me, like, how do you get time to do everything? The truth is, it's about scheduling. It's about finding the time. It's about having a routine that works for you. And so the criteria that I've kind of gone for is doing a little bit and spacing everything out. So I'll leave time during the week to do one thing, time during the week to do another thing. But I think what it really comes down to is following not so much motivation, because I'm not always motivated, but following a path of discipline and just sticking to your goals, remembering why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Always having the goals in the back of your mind, you know. I mean, what are some of your goals?
Yeah, so it's been tricky for me because a lot of why I do so much is because I'm trying to figure out kind of where my goals stand, where I want to go. But I know that I definitely want to be involved in social action, definitely involved in the law. I'm studying a law degree. And so a lot of that has to do with just me pursuing a place where I'm helping people. Yeah. I'm connecting to people. And yeah.
So is that why you decided to study law?
Yeah. So I decided to study law because I noticed that a lot of the careers that you get out of law align with me as a person. So I'm really the type of person to argue, to think deeper. And I just thought law's the perfect platform for that. And it clearly has been good for me so far because the degree has opened so many doors. So that's why I picked law.
Yeah. I mean, that's the amazing thing about university is because the opportunities are endless. And it feels like nowadays a degree, you know, it's good to have a degree, but it seems it isn't enough. Like you need to have that work experience as well. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who is actively looking for work experience, who's looking for these opportunities?
I would say the biggest advice is look at where you are immediately. Look at where you're found immediately and think about what you're doing with that. So a lot of these things that I do, such as the youth council and starting the Law Society and the Christian Union at uni, they all came about because I was looking at where I was at and I was thinking, well, what can I do with this? What can I do with where I'm at? And it started with just taking good care of the little that I had. And surely I was given more responsibility, more trust from people. And if you're somebody who's perhaps struggling to gain work experience and to put yourself out there, I would say, what are you doing with where you're at right now, with the opportunities that you have right now? And if you stick to those, if you become very good at doing what's immediately open to you, then eventually you can grow from there. Yeah.
You had a very productive mindset of, you know, looking around at your surroundings, your environment, the people around you, you know, building connections with people. We know how important networking is.
Right.
I mean, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start connecting with people?
It's tricky because I find that with networking and such, it can feel a bit robotic at times. It can feel like you're putting people in a box or putting numbers on people's heads and he's valuable, she's somebody to speak to, etc. I would say just stand out for yourself first. Just stand out because it's who you are first. And eventually those really, I don't want to call them powerful people, but people of influence will see that quality about you and want to gravitate towards you because of how well you're doing for yourself and for those around you. And so the mindset that I have isn't so much going after people or running after people. It's actually doing well. And then people will run after you.
Yeah, you don't need to chase them, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Like you said, you need to work on yourself. You need to work on your characteristics, your skills, and then that kind of energy will attract people towards you as well. And that's how you will start connecting with people in the industry. But going back to what we said about the beginning about how womanhood reflects the professional sector, what does womanhood mean to you and how do you identify it with it in your everyday life?
Womanhood is so close to me because only a woman understands a woman.
100%.
I know, right? Only a woman understands a woman. And womanhood makes or breaks your experiences sometimes, and that's the harsh reality of this world. There's rooms that you walk in as a woman and you'll be immediately at a disadvantage because you're a woman. But then again, there's this wonderful side to womanhood, which I think society should speak more about, that's actually to do with us being creative, with us being empathetic. And yeah, there are ugly sides to what society perceives as womanhood, but there's also a really wonderful side of womanhood, which is that togetherness that we have. Only a woman can relate to a woman, and that's what womanhood means to me.
Our bond is very strong.
I know.
And I think that's almost the reason why I created this radio show, was to actually celebrate women's successes in any industry, in their personal life, in their work life, in the relationships that they build. Womanhood is not spoken about enough. It seems like on social media, we like to, you know, women like to be at a competition with each other, and the media pits two women against each other because they're powerful. I mean, how do you think social media plays towards representing an accurate image of what womanhood should be?
It's interesting because immediately as soon as I heard that question, I kind of thought, there's no accurate depiction of what a woman looks like. But there are some unrealistic depictions of what a woman should be. And I think it comes down to the realization that women are incredibly different. Every woman is different. And so with social media, sometimes there's that danger of turning all women into the same thing. And if I had to put a name to that, I would say that's just laziness. We want all women to be the same so that then we don't have to deal with the woman that's a little bit different. Yeah. And I think that's unfair to the women who are a little bit different. So I don't think that social media portrays our differences well enough. And I don't think that social media is accommodating of our differences either. So in my opinion anyways, it's okay to be different as a woman. It's okay to approach things a little bit differently. It's okay to be a traditional woman. It's okay to be a different type of woman. But I think that where social media is going wrong is we're scared to accommodate the differences. You see?
100%. I actually never thought of it that way, but I think that's said very beautifully. I feel like there's these societal pressures along with just your pressures in your everyday life that you have to be a certain type of woman. You have to be either a working woman or you have to be a stay-at-home mum. You know, you can't be both because, you know, that's just unrealistic, it seems. But can you share any challenges or obstacles you faced while striving to be successful in your career?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't something that I learned in a day. This isn't something that you learn as a woman as soon as you start your degree or your apprenticeship or your course. This is something that you learn as soon as you interact with virtually anyone in the professional setting. And the issue that I faced was asking myself, who do people expect me to be and who am I? Who do people want me to be versus who I am? And a lot of the times for me, that's come down to integrity, transparency, being honest. I think as a woman, there's that sense of danger that maybe your honesty would put you at a disadvantage. Maybe owning up to a mistake, for example, would put you at a disadvantage. I'll tell you a story actually, and this was quite recently too. So in my course, as you know, law is extremely competitive.
Yes.
And so you right? And so you never want to put yourself at a disadvantage. So there was a time where I made a mistake in my paper, right? And I was thinking, do I mention this? Do I not? And at the back of my mind, what I was thinking about wasn't so much, this is bad, I made a mistake. What I was thinking about the most is, where is this going to put me in the hierarchy of this classroom? And especially in relation to my male colleagues.
Yeah.
And I think that's the link between integrity in the workplace and womanhood, because suddenly you're not just thinking, where am I going to be in the grand scheme of things as a professional? You're thinking, where is this going to put me in relation to the males in my the guys in my classroom too? So I think that's been an issue.
I mean, how did you overcome that?
Yes, that's a good question. The way that I overcame it was by recognizing that actually, when I wrote my application to go into uni and I put all those lovely buzzwords down, like I'm a strong communicator and I'm empathetic and all these things, actually an employer, a lecturer, is looking to see those things in practice as well. And so when I own up and say, hey, I made this mistake, even if it seems like it would put you at a disadvantage, actually those are the qualities that employers are actually looking for. Because anyone could work hard, anyone could get high marks, but not everybody has character. And I think that's what really has made me stand out so far.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing such a experience that felt at the time quite detrimental, maybe, but how you overcame that. And you know what, like you said, no one can take away your character. No one can take away your empathy and your honesty, because those are the qualities that make you who you are. And you stayed true to them. You know, you didn't let it affect you. You didn't let it change you. But there are so many experiences that women face that they've had to change their morals and their ethics, especially maybe in the law sector as well.
Right.
I mean, what advice would you give to anyone who is experiencing something like this?
Yeah, it's really difficult because, again, it's that balance between promoting yourself, growing yourself as a brand, standing out, being the professional you've always wanted to be, and then actually being who you are, being a person of morals, like you said, being a person of value and character. So it's a tough balance. But in terms of advice, I would say, just like I said, at the end of the day, the people that make a difference in society in general are the people that value their morals and their character above a check. Anyone could make quick money. Anybody could succeed in law. And I say that I say that lightly. Not everyone can succeed in law. Obviously, it's tough. It's difficult. Yes, that's the reality of it. But at the same time, who are you if you're not a person of dignity? Who are you if you're not kind to your neighbor, after all? You see? And so I think actually the most impressive people that I've met are the people who said enough is enough. I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to obviously have a professional image at work, but I'm not going to do it at the detriment of someone else. I'm not going to do it to harm anybody. You see?
Yeah. I mean, who are some of those role models you look up to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd say, and this is ironic enough because we're obviously speaking about women, but I think that a lot of the character traits that I have learnt that have brought me this far, I have learnt those through reading about and listening to the person of Jesus Christ. And it's interesting because you're thinking, we're talking about women. Like, Jesus is not a woman, but a lot of the principles that I've learnt that I think any woman could benefit from and should benefit from come from the person of Jesus Christ. Principles such as loving your neighbor, being a servant to others before being a leader. Because as women in the professional sector, we seem to think, I'll be a leader right away. And sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes it starts with serving others, you see. And then secondly, this was quite recently too. I spoke to somebody who's, I'm not sure if I want to say her name just to protect her privacy.
Yeah.
But I spoke to a counselor recently. And yeah, she was a great role model to me because she was speaking to me about everything that she has achieved so far, but not in a self-pumping way, but in the sense of, I've made a difference in someone else's life. And I think that's the model that I want to go for. Not so much what have I done and what successes I've had, but actually, I remember that one time I spoke to such and such. All I did was perhaps sit with them, give them a cup of water, give them a drink, but I made a difference in their life. And I think that's really meaningful.
Wow. So you've learned some beautiful lessons from two amazing, wonderful people.
Right.
How do you because I feel like whenever people hear the word religion, I think at times, especially in the workplace, it can make people feel uncomfortable. You know, it seems like there's this stigma around religion, and that once you kind of identify with a religion, you're labeled immediately and you're put in a box. And we were speaking about this earlier. I mean, how do you feel just about that, about people labeling you?
Yeah, I think it's difficult with assuming that a certain group of people are all the same. I mean, it applies to women as well. Just like I said, all women are women, but not all women are a certain type of women, you know? And I think that's the same, pretty much the same with religion. And religion has actually been I don't want to say the word advantage. That seems wrong. Religion has helped me even in the professional space. Obviously, there are certain professional lines that you don't want to cross. But like we were saying earlier, religion for me, Christianity for me, is a part of my identity, for example. It's my character. And so, same way that you have football lovers speak about football at the workplace, you're probably gonna have a Christian speak about Christian things in the workplace. And that doesn't mean shoving religion down people's throats, but it actually means, am I able to enter this room feeling welcomed despite the religion that I identify with? Am I able to feel like I belong despite the religion that I identify with? And I think that's the gap that a lot of workplaces have to learn to bridge.
Yeah,
and it's difficult.
I mean, how do you think that workplaces can create that safe environment that people can actually share their religion and practice their religion during their lunch hours, whether it's praying or whether it's just speaking about their religion?
Yeah, a lot of the times, and this can apply to anything really, you will know the change that somebody wants to make by what they speak about, by the conversations that you have over lunch, the conversations that you have on your way to the bathroom. You know, people will mention these things. People will mention issues that they're thinking about. Difference is who's listening. That's what people don't tend to think about in these professional settings. A lot of the times it is clear what somebody needs. It is clear what the change that somebody wants. It's just you weren't listening. And as like we mentioned earlier, as an ambassador at ARU, a lot of the times I've gone to committees and these meetings with influential people in the uni, not because I had a massive big list of comments that people made, but actually because I sat with people across lunch and heard them vent about things that are very deep to them. So I say all this to say that it begins with listening. If you do more listening in the work, and I mean this for the people that are kind of at the top, the people who are at the top will figure out what needs to be done if they just listen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not a form that you do, say at the end of a meeting, like, what can we do to be more inclusive? And then you get people to tick it off and then you never come back to it again. Sometimes it is just going round for dinner, listening to what that person has to say and taking it on honestly.
Yeah, because of your active listening and just your personal touch when it comes to hearing about, people's passions and love for things, what feedback have you received from these people then?
Yeah, I don't tend to get feedback. What I do tend to get is just a general connection with people. And I think that connection goes so far in comparison to just feedback. And so when I've made the effort to connect to people, I'll give you an example. Especially at uni, we had a time where there wasn't a Christian union. there wasn't a place for Christians to exercise their faith freely and to share their faith with each other and to build each other up. And so out of that, I came, after conversations with the Students' Union and such, there came the Christian Union, at the first Christian Union at ARU Peterborough.
Wow, I mean, that is amazing. Join us after the break where we discuss more about the Christian Union and dilemmas women face in the work sector and how we define success as two women of colour. Join us in a bit, inshallah.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Whether you visit the Berry Furniture Showroom at 78B Fengate in Peterborough or view and buy online, you'll be amazed at the quality and style you could enjoy in your home. With beds from just £299 and complete 3-2-1 sofa sets from less than £1,000, you'll also be amazed at their wholesale prices too. Plus, there's a 1-year free warranty on sofas and beds, subject to conditions. Find out more, click on Berry, that's BERRE furniture.co.uk or call 01733 300 517.
Satisfy your cravings at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant. Enjoy a tantalising variety of Chinese, Italian, Pakistani and comfort food favourites, from starters to desserts. Kids under 5 dine for free, so bring the whole family to our location at 63 Sycamore Avenue. Open every day from 5 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. Call us on 01733 313131 or book online to reserve your table. Ibrahimi-restaurant.co.uk. Every bite is a delight at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
At Master's Pharmacy, we put your health and convenience first. We offer free blood pressure checks and blister-packed medication. With our free same-day prescription delivery service, you can have your medication when you need it. We also offer travel vaccinations, including Hajj and Umrah, along with other services to meet all your pharmacy needs. For more information, contact Master's Pharmacy on 01733 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
Masterminds Tuition Academy is for your high schoolers, your something to provers, your subject strugglers and keen learners, your brave jumpers and fist pumpers. Affordable personalised learning plans are delivered through our centres in schools across Peterborough. But not to worry, we also provide online and home visits with flexible timings. Whether it is maths, English, science or 11 plus, Masterminds is a must. Find us on all socials and visit our website mastermindstuitionacademy.com or call us on 07516 166 003. Masterminds, master the matrix.
At Cake Inn, all our cakes and slices are freshly baked for that delicious taste. At Cake Inn, we bake 100% vegetarian and halal eggless fresh queen cakes. Delicious flavoured cakes for birthdays and weddings, ceremonies and all other occasions, with free customised messages, even balloons and candles too. Order for delivery or collection from Cake Inn, 489 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PE, and your cake could be ready within 2 hours. Find out more and order online at cakeinn.co.uk or call 01733 496 584.
Peterborough's community radio station. Salam Radio, 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, you are tuning into Her Chronicles. I'm your host, Maleeha Iqbal, and I'm joined with Kelly in the studio. So, Kelly, how do you define success?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the way that I see success isn't so much what have I done for myself, but actually what have I done for others. Nowadays people speak a lot about leaving a name for themselves and perhaps being famous and things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think leaving your mark is actually a lot more impactful when you reach someone, and then that someone reaches someone else, and then that someone else reaches their auntie and their uncle. And all of a sudden, there's this positive chain that you've offset. And I think the most beautiful thing about that is a lot of the time, there are people who perhaps affect you and you'll never know their name, but they affected you positively. And it's in the little things, like maybe, this is a silly example, but maybe there's this really nice community group down the corner that gives you like really great cakes and nice coffees, and the people are just great. Well, that all started off of somebody saying, community group would be a good idea. And you never know who it was, but up to this day, you're being impacted by that person. And so success to me means that chain of whatever it is, love, kindness, that you've gotten to offset. You've had the privilege to offset that.
Yeah, having that gratitude and that patience and that drive that you kind of imprint into someone else, and then that person imprints, and there's like this chain of just goodness and kindness. Wow, you're the first person I've ever heard describe success that way, and I think that's the way I also want to describe it as well, because success can mean different things to different people. Maybe it's moving up in the workplace, moving up on that ladder, or maybe it's in like having personal goals, like you said. I mean, what's your kind of advice on setting realistic and productive goals?
That's a difficult question. Well, goals, we've all heard the SMART acronym. It needs to be achievable and such.
Yeah.
Well, I think whenever you set a goal, you need to think about why you're setting the goal. Nowadays, we have a lot of people that start things or get involved with things for the sake of it. And actually, sometimes there are initiatives that sound very good on the surface. And then I just ask, great, what problem is this solving? And that person turns around and says, I don't know, it just sounded great. And so I think when you're setting goals, think about, am I solving anything here? Is there a problem or an issue that has come to my attention that I can help solve? And if there is a problem, then go for it. You're doing something meaningful. Well done. That's how I see it. Yeah,
I 100% agree. But going back to, obviously, you are the founder of the Christian Society at ARU?
Well, I'm currently the president of the Christian Union at ARU. I believe before me there came someone else, a wonderful woman called Faith. She offset it. She kind of brought the idea up because the uni was so new, there was very little for her to kind of grasp onto. Plus, she was quite busy with her midwifery course and etc. And so, miraculously, I had the opportunity to kind of take that on and carry on the work that she started. And so a lot of the times I'm labeled as like the founder of the Christian Union, but actually I'm not. And that's what I was saying about you start something and then it just offsets a chain of even more wonderful things. And I believe that even if this wonderful woman, Faith, never gets to see the fruit of what she started, she's already been incredibly successful.
Yeah.
And it might be that she has no clue what's going on right now, but that's a success story in itself. So at the minute, I am the president of the Christian Union, and it's been a journey. But with anything that's a journey, sometimes it starts with being very difficult. I mean, no journey is easy. So we've had our tough times. We've had days where like one person shows up to our meetup and we've ordered tons of pizza.
No,
like,
the
no.
free pizza is such an essential.
I know. If there isn't free pizza, no one's coming.
Yeah.
But no, sometimes 1 or 2 people show up, and then there's times where 10 people show up. But the beauty in that is that when 10 people show up to the Bible study, you are thankful that day and you don't take it for granted. So the Christian Union has been a wonderful lesson, a wonderful life lesson to me so far. And yeah, I love it. I love the people. I love what we do, and it's been amazing.
Where did your drive and passion come from picking up Faith's idea and then making it this amazing thing today?
Yeah, I think Faith will probably relate to this. I doubt she can hear us right now. Faith, if you're there, God bless you.
You're amazing.
Yeah. Faith can probably relate to this, but a lot of these, say, initiatives begin with what you were already doing out on the outside. And so I like to say this: if you want to know where you're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years, probably look at the person you are today. And so 5 years ago, right, I had my own little Christian Union at primary school, and then my own little Christian Bible study, at secondary school. And now there's this little Bible study at university, and that pattern goes on and on and on. And so where did this all come from? It quite simply came from the things that I was doing 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And all that just snowballs into something bigger and bigger. And so in 5 years' time, when I come back, perhaps in 5 years' time, we'll have our own little Bible study elsewhere. And like I said, Faith will probably relate to this, that when she rocked up to the to the Students' Union and said, I have a great idea, let's start a Christian Union. This was probably something that she was already doing in the streets, probably something that she was already doing in her own home, you know? So all of these great initiatives and plans and ideas come from who we were 5-10 years ago. That's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible, really.
I know.
I mean, is anyone then welcome to attend your events and get involved?
Absolutely. The Christian Union at ARU Peterborough is completely open. We like to make it just a community space. You want to sit down and have tea? Fine. You want to play Uno and get really competitive? Fine. By the way, Uno is very dangerous because it's just competitive, but I'm off track.
Yeah. Don't bring Uno in.
I know. But you see, that's the type of space that we've wanted to create. And again, it comes down to actually religion is a positive thing. Religion brings the best out in people. And when you're able to share that freely, then great.
Yeah. Have you kind of encountered any gender-related biasness or anything like that in the workplace or maybe in your education journey?
Yeah. So you'll find that a lot of this gender-based discrimination, if you will, that women see doesn't come as obviously sometimes. And I think that's where people begin to question us women and say, did that really happen? And are you sure it's because you're a woman? And I'd say that's because when we mention gender-based discrimination, people always think somebody touched you inappropriately or somebody called you a slur, when sometimes it's the subtle things.
Yeah.
Like I was not sent that email even though this meeting was happening, and everybody else that's every other guy was, for example. And I think that if women were just given that space to say, this happened to me, and I know that it was because I'm a woman, then there wouldn't be so much questioning and bias, like you say. And it's just about remembering that every experience is an experience. And hey, I may not have been, say, touched inappropriately, or I may not have been treated in the obvious ways of discrimination. But if it is discrimination, it is discrimination. And if you don't accept what I'm saying was discrimination, then you're being discriminatory.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a sentence full.
That was a mouthful to say. But yeah, I think the little things that, people view as like the little things that, well, why are you going to speak up for? It's all in your head. That's what we're kind of told. You're either being hormonal. We're told to just don't even bother pick up the issue again and don't speak on it. So how do you kind of get the courage to actually make it clear that this was discriminatory?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been a matter of, hey, I'm going to risk looking like a fool and looking like a liar, but at the end of the day, I'm doing it potentially for the woman that comes after me, right?
Yeah.
You might risk being the odd one out for how many ever years you're in the office, but when another woman comes about and she raises perhaps a similar issue, then it's not as taboo because you've already said something, you've already used your voice. And so when I use my voice, I like to think about the next person. I like to think about my little sister. I have a little sister. In 10 years' time, she'll be where I'm at. How are people going to react to her when she raises something up? And is that going to be because I stayed quiet? Is it going to be because I actually said something? So all these things, you see, they end up affecting somebody else. And that somebody else could be someone you really love in the future. It could be your mom, it could be your sister, your daughter, your cousin.
You're not just doing this for you, you're doing it for a whole generation of women to come, that, we shouldn't normalize and accept this behavior.
Yeah. And I like to think that just as it is becoming normal for women to integrate themselves into politics and law and business and all these traditionally prestigious careers, that's becoming normal, right? I like to think that because of what we're doing, in 10 years' time, 30 years' time, it will become normal for women to speak up about something that bothers them because of their womanhood. That's the aim.
Yeah, that's the aim. I think every woman wants. That's the dream to have in the professional workplace. But going back to what you said about, self-doubt, have you ever kind of experienced imposter syndrome?
That's a big one. I think, yeah, especially in the competitive careers, imposter syndrome is so common.
Yeah, especially
so
if it's
common.
male dominated as well, you might feel like you don't belong.
Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of the times the way that you speak to yourself comes as a result of the things that you've heard for all your life. And so I actually found that because I was being spoken to for so long in life, I got to uni, or I got to the workplace, and I thought, let me repeat that pattern. There's nobody else anymore screaming over my ear telling me that I'm not enough, telling me that I need to try harder. So let me do it for myself. I'll fill in the gap. I'll be the destructive voice here now, since there's nobody else doing it. And there's a danger that even as you grow older, that voice never leaves. And I think that's the core of imposter syndrome. I think it's about letting go of what you've been told for perhaps all your life, perhaps a couple, 2-3 years of your life, letting go of that negativity that's been essentially like thrown at you, and taking that step to heal from that and to accept that actually you are valuable. You do belong.
I think as well, from a young age, being a woman of color and not seeing yourself, especially because I want to go into the journalism industry, maybe presenting, maybe one day, who knows, but not seeing someone who looks like me, who, identifies maybe as Muslim, not seeing that in my life, I think has caused a harmness in my life, because it kind of gives me worries about, am I going to be able to fit in? Right. Do I belong here?
Right.
Have you also kind of experienced that?
Yeah, no, I mean, when you don't see yourself in those spaces, all of a sudden you're having to jump a massive bridge. It's not like you've got Sarah, and it's not like you've got Hawa, it's not like you've got Joanne. It's just you now, and you've got to jump that bridge and do something that you've never seen anybody else do. So yeah, it's just so tough not having those role models kind of face to face, and not seeing yourself in that kind of space. Because again, you look at all these law firms, majority of the time you will not see a black woman at the forefront of the page. And if you do, that's not the norm.
Yeah, it's like, this is just like one of a kind for now, and then we'll go back to our normal person.
Right. And worst case scenario, the black woman was put on the forefront as an exhibit, so that this organization can say, we're not like the others. But then how long does that last? Am I an exhibit, or am I the norm? And I think that's the difference with representation. We don't want to put people of color in these spaces for the sake of it. It needs to be consistent, you see?
Yeah. It's not just like, this is our diversity token, and look at us, we're different, we're very welcoming. But then when you actually do experience that environment, it's not like that at all.
I know. And I mean, it's terribly dehumanizing to feel like the diversity token in any organization. Terribly dehumanizing.
And I think they know it as well, whoever's in that position. But it's almost like they're afraid to speak out, because then they're gone, and then it's just another person that they can replace within their shoes like that. I mean, we need to abolish this.
Right. It's tough, but like we say, it's one person at a time, you see, and it's possible.
Yeah. But how do you kind of prioritize your religion, even though obviously you have a lot of job responsibilities on top of that, plus just being a woman in the 21st century?
Yeah, I mean, with that one, I tend not to see my religion as an additional part of me.
Yeah.
It's who I am.
Yeah.
And what that looks like in practice is setting those boundaries and saying, don't take my 5 minutes away from me. I'm praying.
Yeah.
See, like let me have my quiet time in the mornings, 15 minutes Bible study. Let me have that time to myself, because that's the boundary that I've set, and I'm not shifting on that. The issue is, when boundaries aren't respected, it's difficult to exercise religion, because you're just thinking, how many times am I going to have to forfeit my faith before I crash? And that's not how anybody should be going into the workplace, into anything. I think it should never be a matter of how many boundaries do I cross. It should be, I'm not crossing my boundaries. Is that okay with you? Yes, great. If not, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
And I think that moving on and saying, actually, this is a boundary that I'm not going to cross. Don't take my 5 minutes of prayer away from me. Like, don't take my 15-minute Bible study from me. Saying that, hey, I'm not crossing those boundaries, actually, it will make room for a space where actually you are accepted in spite of your faith.
Yeah.
And that's what you want, really.
I mean, that's a very productive mindset to have, and you're delegating time to spend with God, time to then focus on other things. But how do you implement those boundaries? Because I feel like a lot of women do struggle with that. You know, they have religion in their mind, their heart and their soul, but they don't always feel like they have the time to actively practice or spend time with God.
Yeah, that one's really difficult. I would say nobody has perfectly tackled this. Like, it's okay to make a mistake here and there, because every woman's gonna do it. And I think it's about having that realistic approach too, that there will be times where I'm going to say, hey, can I take some time aside? And your employer might outright say no. But then again, it's always being prepared to say, I'm not being respected here. What am I going to do about it? And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to that. But then again, it's needed if you're going to impact someone else and impact someone else and someone else after that. So it's a difficult step to take, to stand up for your religion, but it's necessary.
Yeah. I mean, how do we even support women in the workplace who work alongside us? How do we make sure each other are being seen and appreciated, do you think? Sorry for these questions. I'm just so intrigued to hear your answers.
Don't apologize. Yeah. I love that question. The way that I see it is, we're all in this together. I know it's cheesy, but like I said, only a woman understands a woman. If I'm not there for you, you best believe your bosses are going to be there for you. You know, if we're not there for each other, what are we? You know, and it comes out of conversations like this, and speaking your mind out as a woman, having a support system. Remember that just as much as you want to talk, there's a woman in your workplace or a woman in your family that wants to talk. Put yourself in her shoes. Put yourself in her shoes. She needs support just as much as you. And I think if you're willing to pour into others, pour out your love into others, pour out your listening and your kindness into others, you'll find that there will be someone to pour out their love and kindness and friendship into you. And that's how we thrive, because nobody's ever lacking anything. You see, that's how women thrive. We've all got our fill. We've all got our share.
Yeah. I mean, such beautiful words. I think especially, you know, being women of colour as well and already feeling like maybe an outcast or feel like they're not involved in maybe activities that they do outside of work, or feeling like they're not seen by their boss, to have womanhood and the bond that unites all women together, because no one else feels or acknowledges the way women feel.
Right.
And we really do understand each other.
Right.
So just stay strong and stay true to yourself. Any last words for us?
Yeah, I would say it was just a pleasure to be here today. And if anything, I hope this goes out to a woman who will help a woman who will help a woman. And that's what
wise
matters.
words. But thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing your remarkable achievements and sharing some encouraging words about womanhood. Join me next week, inshallah. Hadafis.
Stay tuned
Bye.
to